Hello and welcome to The Rundown, another episode. Kyle Stackpole, editor of WashingtonFootball.com, here as always, but not here with me. I'm a little sad. We got Zach Selby from an undisclosed location. Zach, happy Thanksgiving, man. How's it going?
It's been pretty good. I will reveal the location. I am in Tennessee visiting my family for the next 6 days, but yeah, I miss you, man. It's weird not being seeing you over to my left. It's gonna be odd, but we'll get through this. We'll get through this podcast for the good people of the rundown.
Yeah, it's weird just like staring at the camera, but like really you're right off to the side on a computer. So it's just very strange. But you know, this holidays are coming up. You want to spend time with family, but there's also a football season still going on. Washington taking on the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow. On Thanksgiving, Washington is 1-8 against Dallas, so Ron Rivera will look to get that second win. But before we get into it, we got a lot of good stuff planned. We got an interview with David Helman, Cowboys writer. But before we do that, I'm going to handle the plug, Zach, if you don't mind. I know you might be a little.
This is a heavy responsibility.
You might be a little pissed off, but. Official podcast of the Washington football team. Be sure to check us out wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, WashingtonFootball.com, the app. For these episodes you can watch on YouTube. The recap ones are just audio, so sorry, but it is what it is. We make do with what we got. So hope you guys enjoyed this show, but let's jump into it with segment 1 with the Pulse. And Zach came up with some pretty compelling topics today, I would say. And the first one has to do with the wide receivers. So Dontrelle Inman was a full participant in yesterday's practice. It seems like he's going to be back from that hamstring injury, which bodes the question, should Cam Sims continue to get more work? He's performed well. Or should Dontrelle Inman come back into that role? Or should they split carries? What do you think?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and give you some stats. Since Alex Smith has taken over as a starter for Cam Sims, he had 9 receptions for 184 yards. That's pretty good. And then he's projected for 392 yards this year. Just a little fun fact for you here. Going into that Bengals game, about 20% of the offense came from Cam Sims, wow. Which it was crazy to think about. But, I mean, I think that you have to go with a hot hand here. I think Cam Sims has definitely earned his spot in that starting receiver rotation. Now, that's not a disrespect to Dontrelle Inman because I think Dontrelle Inman adds a lot to this receiving core. But I also believe that when you're trying to get the best chance to win and go toe-to-toe against this Dallas offense, which can explode. I mean, they're still a top 10 offense even without Dak Prescott. You need the most productive pieces that you have so far on this team and for this season. I think you got to put Cam Sims in there as the number 2, and then put Dontrelle Inman in there, but not in a featured role just yet.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, both in the short term and the long term. Cam Sims has almost 100 more yards receiving than Dontrelle Inman, and he's only really been playing the past 4 weeks. He first came in that Giants game where he scored that last-second touchdown. The other thing, you mentioned it with Alex Smith, and it's also the youth-first experience. You know what you have in Dontrelle Inman, and you had several games of him as a starter, and aside from the Cleveland game, he didn't do that much, whereas Cam Sims has shown a lot these past couple games, and he has a lot of room to grow because he's only in his 3rd year, and he's barely played on offense until now. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think you got to keep going with Cam Sims. Like you said, ride the hot hand, because he is someone he's not only becoming a starter, he's the number 2 guy right now. So roll with Cam Sims and see where we can go from there. Second one, another offensive question having to do with the offensive line. So obviously last week, Cornelius Lucas couldn't play, so they moved over Morgan Moses to the left side, first start since 2014 there, and had David Sharp move in to right tackle. Turns out, worked out pretty well. PFF picked Washington as the offensive line of the week, which is pretty crazy for their performance against the Bengals. Now, Lucas, I think he was a limited participant the past couple days, so there's a chance that he comes back. Do you stick with the lineup that you have now that performed very well last week, or do you go back to what you had and move forward with that?
Well, I'll bring it up again. Back in another waistline, I used to be an offensive lineman. I was 295 pounds in college, and
that's still
I know, yeah, but as someone who can speak from that experience, consistency on the offensive line is so key, especially later on in the year. You like to have that build camaraderie, and you know what everyone's going to be doing on their responsibilities. And this little match, this little conglomerate that they had against the Bengals, 2 sacks, third best pass blocking grade they've had all year. Which, I mean, that's impressive. And I like Big Luke. I think he does a lot of good things. I think he had 0 pressures in his 2 starts there. But when you got to go with what works, and I think that it kind of goes back to the Cam Sims argument. I think that maybe at the very most you can say give Lucas a chance at right tackle. But I did like Morgan Moses at left tackle. I mean, he got some good blocks there, and I think you stick with what you got and keep it as it is against the Cowboys.
All right, I respect what you're thinking, but I'm gonna have to disagree with you.
Okay.
I think you got to go back to what you had because Morgan Moses is a right tackle. There's a reason he hasn't started a game at left tackle since his rookie year. It's because he plays better at right tackle, even though he played well at left tackle against the Bengals. Also, Cornelius Lucas has shown that he is a better right or left tackle than David Sharp. Like he's just a better offensive lineman. There's a reason that he got the run as a starter once Jerron Christian went out. So I get you want to go with what works, but that combination also worked really well in the 2 games before the Bengals game. So, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong either way. I think it's a credit to the offensive line coach, John Matsko, assistant offensive line coach, Travell Wharton, and Rivera said it, to be able to work through all these injuries and circumstances. The units played well, and it's really protect Alex Smith. But I think you got to go Morgan Moses, move him back to the right where he's comfortable, and go from there. You got anything else on that?
Have either way. I can understand that logic, though.
Exactly. Last one has to do with some trick plays. So last week we saw, I think it was a 3rd and 2, where Logan Thomas, former quarterback in college, motions under center and sneaks the ball for a first down, which I have never seen in my life. I mean, I've watched a lot of football and I've seen a lot of trick plays. I've never seen that. Have you ever seen that?
No, honestly. I loved it, though. I thought it was the most creative play I've seen in quite some time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you. So the question becomes, do you want to see more stuff like that? Or do you want – because they haven't really done that many trick plays. I mean, they had their reverse against the Lions that went for a 10-yard loss, and then this play on Sunday. But really not that many trick plays. So do you want to see more, or are you good with what Washington's doing offensively?
Well, one of my favorite football movies of all time is The Waterboy. And in the last game of the movie, the announcer kept going, "Last game of the year, Brett, can't own anything back now." And, I mean, I think they're in that mode now where they have to be in playoff thoughts all the time because they're still – even if they lose against the Cowboys tomorrow, they still have a chance to potentially do something with some help and win the division. So I think that, not only do I want to see more trick plays and see where they can see how Scott Turner wants to open up his bag a little more in the red zone, but I also want to see some more plays that require some more motion. I mean, I've seen that one jet sweep play where either McKissick or Gibson will run an in motion as a Y back and then go around the edge. I like that play a lot. I think that is just a really unique play. And I think that kind of gives a little bit added wrinkle for defenses to really worry about, especially down the stretch when you're going against good defenses like the Steelers and on top of that, the 49ers. So, I say throw not the kitchen sink, but throw every little bit of creativity you have at whatever defense is against you.
Yeah, I agree. I think when I first thought about this, I was thinking, oh, no, we shouldn't. I mean, the offense is averaging 397 yards, I think, the past 4 games. Stick with what's working. But, yeah, when you're in contention for the playoffs and your offense really isn't explosive, even though they've had a lot of yards, you need those plays where you can pick up chunk yardage and move you down the field quickly. Against the Bengals, that 42-yard reception to Terry, it wasn't a trick play, but that chunk play is what led to that touchdown. And they really hardly had to do anything aside from that one play. So I agree with you. You really have to – I think Scott Turner, we've seen it. Obviously, he's got a very big playbook with a lot of different plays. I'm sure we haven't seen hardly any of them yet. But, yeah, I think they should, starting with the Dallas game because why the hell not? I mean, Thanksgiving Day at Dallas, rivalry game. Why not try to get ahead with a trick play? So that was the pulse. Covered a bunch of offense, which, I mean, it's going to be important against a Dallas defense that has not been very good this year. For more on Dallas, we're going to talk to David Helman of DallasCowboys.com, get his thoughts on what's going on in Dallas and can they rebound from that shellacking that Washington gave them a couple weeks ago. Stay with us.
At RTS, game day strategy doesn't stop when the whistle blows. RTS delivers smarter, more responsible waste and recycling services. As an official partner of the Washington football team, RTS is connecting the team and FedEx Field with sustainable solutions to care for the community and the environment. RTS, a better waste company. Find out more at rts.com.
Has your business been affected by COVID-19? Have you considered reducing or moving your office space? Then it's time to call Victory Van. We provide the best service and price with flexible options for your company's moving and storage needs. Visit victoryvan.com to get your free moving and storage quote today. For corporate storage and moving, it's always the right move to choose Victory Van. That's victoryvan.com. Victory Van Corporation, delivering excellence for 75 years and a proud partner of the Washington football team.
Finch Services Incorporated, recognized in its industry as a world-class organization, is the exclusive supplier of John Deere golf and sports turf maintenance equipment for the Mid-Atlantic region. In business since 1945, Finch helps golf course and sports turf managers maintain some of the most exclusive playing surfaces in the region. Experience the Finch advantage for yourself. Contact one of our golf and sports turf sales specialists to see how we can help you maintain your field of dreams. Go to finchturf.com for more information.
We're back with the rundown, and as promised, we have DallasCowboys.com staff writer David Helman. David, we had you on a couple weeks ago before Washington played Dallas in Week 7, gave us all the insight, and it turns out Washington got the best of Dallas 25-3, really Washington's easiest performance of the year, which, you know, it's been tough going for them this year, as well as Dallas. But just looking from afar, it seems like a lot of things have changed since that game, and it almost seems like Dallas maybe is starting to get back on track here. So what has changed since that Washington game, and what can we expect going into tomorrow's matchup?
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect to Washington, I think a big part of the Cowboys' turnaround is embarrassment about the way that game went, because there's especially now that they're playing better, there's no denying that was really one of the low points of the season. Obviously, you know, losing Dak is a low point, but just in terms of, I don't know that I've ever seen a football team play worse than the Cowboys did that day at FedEx Field. You know, they gave up 200 rushing yards, easily allowed 25 points to, you know, again, no offense, but to a not very good Washington offense. And the offensive line absolutely could not protect the quarterback, either one of them. And obviously Andy Dalton left the game with a concussion. So, I mean, just really one of the worst performances I've ever seen by the Cowboys. Actually, after the game, DeMarcus Lawrence said, you know, we've got to find some fight. We've got to find some belief. We've got to grow a backbone, which is not something you want to hear about a professional football team, you know. But to their credit, they've really buckled down since. You know, they've only gone, 1-2 in the 3 games that they've played since then, but they have looked a heck of a lot better doing it. So I think getting their butts kicked kind of helped kick them into gear, if I had to guess.
Well, you know, Dave, one of the big changes from the last matchup is that Zach Martin is going to be available, looks like. I mean, and looks like they're putting him at right tackle, but what does that do for that offensive line structure, and how does that maybe help them out?
It's been a talking point here all season. Obviously, you know, you haven't had La'el Collins all season long. You lost Tyron Smith very early, so they haven't had either tackle, and it's been a really big issue. You know, they started an undrafted rookie by the name of Terrence Steele against Washington. It did not go well. It hasn't gone well for him most of the season. People have been wondering for weeks why they wouldn't move Zach Martin, and they finally did against Minnesota. Lo and behold, it looked pretty good. You know, the guy's – he's going to have a case to be in the Hall of Fame one day. So it's not super surprising to see him excel, you know, out at tackle. He played tackle in college. And especially, you know, I have a feeling they've moved him there against Minnesota with an eye on this matchup. Obviously, Washington's just got a bunch of monsters on the edge, and they're going to need him to play like he did on Sunday if they're going to have a chance to slow him down.
A big part of the offense is protecting Andy Dalton. We only got to see him for part of the game against Washington. He got knocked out with that concussion, but he's back. It seemed like he performed pretty well against Minnesota. What can we expect from Andy Dalton, and how do you expect this offense to run against Washington?
Well, I think what you can expect from Andy Dalton almost completely depends on the protection. He looked rough against Washington because they couldn't buy him any time. I think the line gave up 6 sacks in that game. They weren't all of Andy, but still. So if they can keep him upright, what we saw against Washington is, I don't want to call it conservative, but, you're probably not going to bomb away too much. You want to get the ball out of Dalton's hands. He only averaged 6 yards per attempt against Minnesota. But with these receivers, you don't necessarily need to bomb away. Amari Cooper's a fantastic possession receiver. They're going to lean on the run game. I would expect Zeke Elliott to run off right tackle. That's where Zach Martin's going to be. It seemed to work against Minnesota. So I think a more conservative approach than what you might be seeing if Dak Prescott was still the quarterback. But Dalton showed against Minnesota, if he's got time and isn't on his back, he can get the ball distributed to all the guys that he needs to make it work.
Well, going on the other side of the defense, Trayvon Diggs on IR. We have a joke on this podcast that Terry made him look like burnt toast.
Absolutely. Absolutely did.
So how is the secondary adjusting to having Diggs out? Because, he did have 10 pass breakups before he was on IR.
It's interesting. Trayvon was having a really good season, but Washington wasn't the only team that picked on him. He's the rookie in a secondary. He gave up a lot of big plays, which, credit to him for battling back, but that was kind of a theme for his season. But there's no denying it. Cornerback is currently the problem spot for this team. They lost Trayvon. They just got Chidobe Awuzie back in the lineup, and then they lose Anthony Brown to a rib injury against Minnesota. He's going to try to play Thursday. I would imagine he's limited if he plays at all. So, again, you're dealing with a situation where, they were asking practice squad players to play a lot of snaps against Pittsburgh and against Minnesota. I would imagine it's going to have to happen again on Thursday. So if Terry McLaurin can go, I feel good about his chances at having some big plays, because there's just – there wasn't a lot of depth in this secondary to begin with, and it's definitely being tested right now.
We talk about the secondary, but in this first matchup, Washington rushed for 208 yards, by far their highest total of the season. What is the what has the rush defense done since then? Have they performed well?
It's really kind of mystifying, because, like I said, they got embarrassed against Washington. This is not a rushing attack that should be able to put 200 yards on you. And they just ran right through them. And they haven't been the only team to do that. Cleveland ran for 300 yards, which, how does that even happen in an NFL game?
Yeah.
So, people have talked a lot about, adapting to the scheme. Mike Nolan, he's a two-gap coach. They like the two-gap, which that's not something Dallas has done here. So I think a lot of guys were adjusting to that. I think you saw a lot of players freelancing and just kind of doing what they want to do. And since getting embarrassed by Washington, it seems like they've kind of doubled down and bought in, because they're doing the stuff they're supposed to do now. Like, it's the same personnel for the most part. They cut Dontari Poe, but all the same defensive tackles are still on this team that were there against Washington. DeMarcus Lawrence is still there. I just think they're committed to their assignments and doing what they're supposed to do a little bit better. And they're not dominant by any stretch. Dalvin Cook ran for 115 on Sunday, but there is a big difference between even okay and what they were doing before. So if they're playing okay, I think they should be able to play much better against this rushing attack than they did a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we'll see. Antonio Gibson had 94 rushing yards last week, and he seems to be on a little bit of a roll ever since that Dallas game. But we'll see what happens with it. Finally, this is a big game for both teams. First place on the line in the In the NFC East, records are what they are. It's first place.
It makes me laugh. It makes me laugh just talking about it. But I mean, you're not wrong.
Exactly. The fact that it's not wrong is a little funny in itself. But I mean, what are some of the keys to this game? If what's going to happen? Do you think?
Man, I could see it going either way. I really, obviously, I mean, 2, 3, and 7 teams. Washington already beat these guys once. I really do. I think it comes down to how well Andy Dalton, how much time he has against this front. Even when the Cowboys beat Washington, like Washington has had a lot of success beating up the Cowboys quarterback for years. Jonathan Allen has given them fits from the time he got drafted. Kerrigan, Cowboys tackles have talked about Kerrigan for a decade, how hard he is to defend. So how much time Andy Dalton has, I think, dictates everything about this game. I think if the Cowboys defense can play like they've played the last 2 weeks, again, they're not great by any stretch, but I think they can do much better than they did last time. Maybe keep Washington to, under 25, I would think. And, if Dalton's got time, I think they can grind out a 2017 win, something like that. But by no means am I going to be surprised if Washington comes in here and finds a way to win. But based on what we've seen these last 3 weeks, I like the Cowboys' chances if they keep this role that they've been on.
It should be a close game. David, thank you so much. You're going to be at AT&T Stadium on Thanksgiving Day. What is that spread like? What does Jerry World have to offer on Thanksgiving?
Legendary, from what we've heard.
Man, this is a total first world problem, obviously. I hope everybody's safe. Obviously, there's so many bigger concerns. But I will say, on a regular Thanksgiving, I always joke with people like, people are like, oh, I'm sure you'd rather be with your family. And I'm like, man, the spread at AT&T is better than most Thanksgiving spreads I've ever had. I mean, obviously they do turkey, they do stuffing. The macaroni and cheese at AT&T is legendary.
Yes.
Mashed potatoes. They usually have like a red meat option, whether it's like like ribeye or prime rib. So I mean, the eating is really good. So the food's been good this year, but they kind of dialed it back for the pandemic. It's not as crazy as it would be. So I'm interested to see how good the spread is tomorrow. Like, I'm sure it'll still be good, but I kind of doubt it'll be as good as it normally would be. But we'll see. I'll report back to y'all tomorrow and see what it's all about.
Yeah, please do.
I mean, we'll be following along on Twitter and everywhere else. Where can people find you?
Yeah, if for some reason you are a Washington fan who wants Cowboys news, I'm at Helman DC, Helman DC, like Dallas Cowboys, and I tweet way too much, but I'll post a photo of my spread tomorrow for sure, just for y'all.
Please do it. I might have to turn on notifications just so I see it. But you said you tweet a lot, so maybe not. Maybe I don't want to get my phone blown up. But
I tweet a lot on game days, so just be warned.
All righty. Well, David, thank you so much. Wish we could be there enjoying that Thanksgiving spread with you. But next year, hopefully, maybe the year after that. But thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Absolutely, y'all. Y'all stay safe. Happy Thanksgiving.
Couchgating, presented by the DC Lottery. Couchgating is the new tailgating. Enter to win a chance at a WFT DC Lottery fan pack. Celebrate your Couchgate by sharing a photo using hashtag DCL to have your Couchgating photo featured on the Couchgating Wall of Fame. Please post your photos on social media using the tags at Washington Football, at DC Lottery, and the hashtag CouchGatingDCL for consideration. Please note that not all photos will be accommodated on the Couchgating Wall of Fame, and all Couchgating photos are posted on the sole discretion of the Washington football team.
It's all-wheel drive season, and your local Honda dealers are bringing the best deals of the year. It's clearance pricing during the Happy Honda Day sales event. Dash through the snow in a rugged and adventurous Honda. Check out our entire all-wheel drive truck and SUV lineup. CRV, HRV, Ridgeline, Pilot, Passport, with features like Honda Sensing, Magic Folding Seats, and 3 different driving modes. Clearance pricing is here, but it won't last long. Don't miss clearance pricing at Happy Honda Days sales event, now at your local Honda dealer. Thanks to David Helman for all of the Dallas Cowboys insight, and also the spread at AT&T sounds amazing. I almost want to kind of be there. I know that sounds wrong, but like that sounded really good.
Maybe he can send us some stuff. Maybe he can mail it safely over to us at the facility.
Exactly.
The mac and cheese is amazing, though. I remember having it the last year we were there at AT&T. It is pure perfection, honestly. Best mac and cheese I've ever had.
Before we get out of here, we got to finish it up with some segments. We got Studs and Duds. We got Stevie. She's got a mic today, so it's a big day. She's going to give us 3 players, coaches, position groups, whatever. So we'll start with that. And then who we got, the segment that everyone is clamoring for. I know that Zach's family has been asking him about this. They've been dying to know what the who we gots are this week. Zach's going to, once they listen to this, Zach will let them know, I'm sure. But, yeah, from East Coast to West Coast.
No political debates at the Selby Thanksgiving table. It's all about what Zach is saying and who we got.
That's right. So let's get started. First of all, with Studs and Duds. Stevie, let's just jump right in. Who's your first one?
All right, my first one is someone that I already asked you guys about, but he played against the Bengals, so I'm going to go back to Thomas Davis Sr.
Oh, my God. All right.
Oh, goodness.
Zach, you start.
Go first.
All right. So he was a dud then, and he's a dud now. I mean, he played 19 snaps, and it was because they were rotating the linebackers. The first series, it was Cole Holcomb and Kevin Pierre-Louis, and then next series is John Bostic and Thomas Davis. And Rivera was saying that how he liked the direction the linebackers were headed, and he liked the rotation because it kept everyone on their toes. But when Thomas Davis was in there, he didn't really do much. And there was a play. It was a 3rd and long, and Ryan Finley ran for a first down, and Thomas Davis just could not catch him. He just didn't have another gear to run him down. I don't think he should really be playing based on his performance on Sunday, and we'll see what happens going forward. Unfortunately, I'm sure he does a lot in the locker room, and we've heard that with linebackers coach Steve Russ and also Rivera. But in terms of on-field production, he's just not getting it done for me. So I'm going to stay with a dud for Thomas Davis.
Yeah, one of the benefits of doing this from my computer is I get to cheat a little bit and look at the stats from Thomas Davis. And he had a grand total of 1 tackle against the Bengals last week. Not great. And he's only been active 4 games. And that's really I think I said this last time, but I was expecting a whole lot more at Thomas Davis. I don't know what it was going to be expecting. Maybe it was the leading the Chargers in tackles last year, but he just hasn't been that at all. And I don't know why they haven't been putting him more, but maybe this 1 tackle performance is a little preview of a reason why they haven't been. So I like his veteran intangibles. That's great, but you get paid for production at the end of the day. So I love him, but I'm going to have to go with the dead as well.
Definitely. Stevie?
All right, our next one, we're going to go to the defensive line, Jerome Payne.
Jerome Payne. All right, Zach, you start with this one.
All right, I'll start this one. I won't get a chance to cheat, but I'll give him a chance. This is my guy. I do like Jerome Payne a lot, and I think that he's been a productive member of this defensive line. He doesn't get talked about a lot because you have Chase Young, you have Ryan Kerrigan, John Allen, but he's also a first-round pick as well, and he's been a good clog up the middle for players. And
a clog.
What?
Just like it's funny you say a clog in the middle.
Not the clog, a clog. And a clog at the middle is one solitary clog. And I do think he's been a productive member of the defensive line, even though he doesn't get the notoriety. I have to go with the stud just because I like him, and I think he's really, really good.
I agree, and it's tough because he doesn't put up that many stats, so you can't really throw those out there to defend your argument. But I think he's a stud as well. He does everything right. He doesn't get a lot of credit. I think he was we had the underappreciated award during the bye week, and I think we said Jerome Payne, or at least I said Jerome Payne.
I said I think I said Jerome Payne too. Yeah.
Somebody said Jerome Payne.
One of us at least said Jerome Payne.
Yeah, exactly. So he's been really strong. He's been consistent. He's stayed healthy, which is big, and he's been one of the players in the run game who has done really well when some of the other players maybe have not done as well. So he's definitely a stud. There's not really much else to say, and he has been since they drafted him.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one, I might have to explain it to you guys. I'm not sure, but the kick return game, including the punt return game as well. So we could say Steven Sims, Danny Johnson, Isaiah Wright, Greg Stroman were back there too, but let's stick to the most recent. So that would be, Danny Johnson and Steven Sims.
Okay. It's putting us on the spot.
I know. I was trying to save the best for last.
All right, Zach, start looking up stats now so you can throw something out there because I have no idea. I'm like really on the fence about this.
Woo.
I think I'm gonna say dud. I think Danny Johnson has had a couple decent kick returns. They haven't really done much in the punt return game. Isaiah Wright had that huge fumble. Steven Sims also had a huge fumble on a punt return against Arizona. So those two things in and of itself, I'm going to go with a dud for this group. I think they're improving though, which is nice. You would love to see them break off a big run or even a touchdown this week or going into the rest of the season because you know that Steven Sims can do it. He did it last year against the Lions and Deion Sanders his way into the end zone with the high step. So they have the potential. They haven't really broken anything yet, so I'm going to give them a dud. But they're trending in the right direction. So it's kind of a cop-out, but I'm trying to save my butt.
Okay. Well, I think that it's a stud, honestly. And I think it's because of Danny Johnson. And look, this guy has 374 return yards so far this year. And that puts him in about the 10 to 15 range. And he averages about a 22-yard return. I mean, you could say that doesn't really affect the offense all that much, but I do think that it does some good things. I mean, he's had a long of 46. So he does have the ability. And I think, Steven Sims hasn't gotten the chance yet, but I think that also just goes into how, the punt team usually just covers. You could say the blocking scheme for the return team maybe a dud individually. But I do think that overall, collectively, with a big piece of Danny Johnson, I think that this is a stud. I mean, it needs to be better. You're correct. I think it needs to improve because it's not on the top tier yet. But I do think that it's a stud in my book. So I'll stick with that.
So we agreed on some. We disagreed on some. I think the kick return game is in punt return. Definitely, like I said, trending in the right direction. But you did make some good points. So maybe if you went first, I would have switched. But it's close. It's close. So let's finish this up with who we got. We got Thanksgiving edition, who we got. I can tell you no one else is doing a Thanksgiving who we got in the entire world. All right? Let me just tell you right now. So we got 3. Zach came up with these. I think they're really good ones. We're going to start with more total yards. Dallas or Washington? Who we got?
So ever since Dak Prescott has gone down with the injury, and by the way, we all wish him well, but this offense is still a top 10 unit. I mean, they're 6th overall in total yards, which, I mean, the fact that they were number 1 at one point and then just dropped not that much is impressive, I think. But in the past 4 games, Washington has averaged 397 yards. And that's pretty much since Alex Smith is more or less outside of the Dallas game last time. They've really improved their offense. And Rivera has said that Scott Turner is opening up the playbook a lot more. And I think that has to do with Alex being in the starting role, as well as the receivers and the running backs developing as well. So, I think that it's going to be a shootout, honestly. But I think that Washington has a slight edge here, so I'm going to take them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wanted to be different, just like we were last week, but I agree with you. I think Washington might fall behind in this game and have to pass the ball more, similar to what they did against the Lions and Giants. Hopefully they don't fall behind by that much. But I just think Cowboys at home on Thanksgiving Day with, like David was saying, there's going to be, I think, about 30,000 fans in the stadium, which players just aren't used to this year, and Alex Smith talked about it yesterday. So I think the Cowboys are going to be ready to play. I think they're going to go with the run game and Zeke, so maybe kind of methodically move the ball down the field rather than picking up chunk yards. But I think Washington's going to be able to come back and put a lot of yards up. So I'm going to agree with you for maybe some different reasons and go with Washington. Next one, we got more rushing attempts. Zeke Elliott or Antonio Gibson? Who we got?
Well, so Antonio Gibson had 16 rushes last game, and then Ezekiel Elliott had about 20. And they performed about the same, I would say. But I think that Antonio Gibson is starting to emerge as the featured back of this Washington backfield. I think McKissick is great, and he's almost like a change of pace. They have the same similar skill set, but I think he's more used as I know he's an every down back, and I think he's proven that, but I think he's also used in a lot of other ways outside of just being a runner. I think that responsibility as weeks have gone on is more heavily relied upon by Gibson. So I think that and plus they rushed for 30 times as a team last week. So I think that Gibson again is gonna get it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ezekiel Elliott didn't end up having like a 20 to 25 carry game. I think Gibson though is gonna have that edge though.
I think, just like you said, I think Zeke is going to have that 20 to 25 carry game. He had a bunch of carries last week against Minnesota. They don't want to get in these third and long situations where Andy Dalton's going to be forced to pass the ball. That pass rush is going to be able to get on him just like they did last game. So I think they're really going to try to establish the run early. And especially if they go up, I think they're going to use him to drain some clock. So I think it might not even be close. Give me Zeke Elliott by at least eight rushing attempts.
Disrespectful to Antonio Gibson.
Maybe Antonio Gibson still has a lot of yards with his lack of carries, but I just think they're going to feed Zeke. I think you got to feed him. Thanksgiving Day, Zeke's hungry. He needs more carries.
With the cereal, right? With the cereal.
That's right. Feed him the turkey, though. Feed him all the turkey. All right. Okay. Third one. We have more penalties. This is interesting. I don't think we've done this yet. Washington or Dallas? Who we got?
I did it specifically because we haven't done it yet. And I was curious. I looked it up. And Washington has been one of the least penalized teams in the league all year. I believe they averaged a little under 4. And Dallas is a little bit down there. I think they've averaged about 5 or 6 or it's about between 5 and 7. But in the last 3 games, they've been equal, both averaging 6 penalties a game. For me, I don't normally like to go all Washington. I like to consider myself an unbiased reporter because that's what I am. But I still, and my unbiased opinion, you got to go with what you've seen in the past 7 or 8 weeks, and that's been that Washington plays more or less a clean game, penalty wise. So I'm going to go with Washington just because I think Rivera teaches the good fundamentals and doesn't teach a lot of penalty-ridden tactics, I guess, if that's even a technical term. But I will stick with Washington here just because I'll trust, in the words of Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, trust the people that you know rather than people that you don't know. So I'll go with Washington.
All right, I like that. At first, I was going to say a tie because I just don't know, and that seemed like the best way to go. But I'm going to, because I want to make up some ground after last week's poor showing, I'm going to go with Dallas. Okay. Wait, you said Washington more penalties?
Washington. Let's go Dallas more penalties because I know Washington is going to have a good game.
Okay, so I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say Washington is more penalties. I think offense has been able to draw them off sides a couple times. I think that combined with the crowd could maybe get them mixed up. Also on offense too, Alex Smith is obviously the veteran, but aside from him, they have very young playmakers who haven't played in front of nearly this many fans since last season. And it's just going to be a huge game. It's going to be a crazy atmosphere. So I think that while Washington might not have those holding penalties or pass interference calls, they could have some of those 5-yard penalties, encroachment, false start, illegal shift that ends up adding up. So maybe Washington has more penalties, doesn't have as many yards, but I still think they're going to have more penalties than Dallas.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. I mean, and to your point, I mean, it's gonna. I mean, there's been 30,000 fans there. They've played with 3,000 fans one time, and everybody's played with crowd noise in their career. They're NFL players, but at the same time, it's a unique experience for this year, for sure.
For sure.
So before we get out of here, I meant to ask this in the first segment, but it is Thanksgiving. We talked to Rivera, Alex Smith, and Chase Young yesterday, and they all said they're not really turkey guys. Turkey, you think the staple of Thanksgiving, but they don't really mess with it. Are you a turkey guy, Zach, or you prefer something else?
I am a turkey guy, but I am a deep fried turkey guy. I'm not turkey in the oven guy. I think the margin for error for turkey in the oven is too dry. I think when you have a deep fried turkey, you can get the juicier, the more flavorful texture. So I would go. I like ham. Nobody doesn't like a good honey baked ham, but I'm gonna go. I'll say that I am a turkey guy.
Yeah, I'm definitely more of a ham guy, but you're right. If you find me someone who can make a nice deep fried turkey, I'll eat that every time. But like you said, margin for error, very small. And if I'd had one bite of the turkey and it's dry, I'm out on it. One last thing before we go. 3 favorite Thanksgiving dishes. Is turkey in there? What are you thinking?
Turkey is not in there. Since we knocked this down from 5 to 3 for the sake of time, turkey has to be out of the discussion. But I think for top 3, I gotta go with sweet potato casserole with the marshmallows toasted and some pecans on there. That's delicious.
Stevie just said, ew. That sounds amazing.
It is amazing. And I mean, it's a dessert, but it's like an amazing piece of a Thanksgiving dinner. The second one, I have to go with mac and cheese, but it has to be the breadcrumbs crumbled on there and Gouda cheese as well. You have to have the Gouda cheese with the shells, not the little noodles. You have to have the shell. The shells are very particular. And then for the last one, mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes are the glue that holds everything together. If you're one of those monsters like Kyle who likes to mix things together on Thanksgiving, but I don't like to do that, but I do like mashed potatoes. But the thing is, you have to put some cream cheese in there first, and then some garlic, and then you have to mix it up really well to have that perfect consistency of not runny mashed potatoes, but it's still got a little bit of fluff to them, but also very thick. Look, I've done some deep analysis on this Thanksgiving discussion. I've been waiting for this.
I was gonna say these are crazy specific. All right, I like those. I like all those. I do have some different ones. I'm gonna start with. I guess we had one similar one: mac and cheese. My dad. Shout out to Freddie Stacks, makes great mac and cheese. He's got the breadcrumbs. He's got bacon in there. Sometimes he's got ham in there. You never know. So start that with number 1. Number 2, I think I'm gonna go with stuffing. Some people sleep on stuffing, but I don't know. I always find myself going back for more of the stuffing. So number 2 there. Number 3, I'm going to go with dessert. I'm going to go with apple crumble. I always got to save some room in there for the apple crumble. Just like Rivera was saying that he saved some room for some pie afterwards. So always got to have the apple crumble. I'm actually not going home this year to Jersey, so I won't be having it or having the crumble I usually have. So I might have to go buy it. And try to relive, and you got to heat it up too. You got to heat it up, and you got to have the ice cream. So those are the Thanksgiving dishes. Zach, I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We'll both be watching the Washington-Dallas game. Should be a really good one. And then we will talk to you on Friday, I believe. But Zach, before we get out of here, I know you got one more thing to say to the people.
It is time for the virtual plugs. Let's go. All right, so this is an official podcast of the Washington football team. You can check us out wherever you find your podcast, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube. Check out our wonderful faces there. You can check out all of our wonderful work at WashingtonFootball.com, on the Twitters, at Kyle F. Stackpole, at Zach D. Selby. You had a solid plug performance, Kyle. I'll give you a B+, but when the GOAT comes in, we have to show. It's like the Michael Jordan versus LeBron conversation. I will be Michael Jordan of plugs. You can be LeBron.
All right. I think you're way better than me at plugs, but whatever. Zach, good talking to you as always. We'll see you next week, but enjoy your weekend with the fam. For Kyle Stackpole, Zach Selby, Stevie Katz, this is The Rundown.
For more than 100 years, Chesapeake Employers Insurance has been helping Maryland businesses keep their workers safe. With competitive pricing and an AM Best A- financial strength rating, it's no surprise that Chesapeake Employers is Maryland's largest writer of workers' comp insurance.
At the end of every workday, someone's waiting for your safe return.
Connect with your agent or visit CEIWC.com.
Locally owned Novak is energizing the community in powerful ways. From sponsoring meals for first responders and medical professionals to donating generously to area food banks, Novak knows we're in this together. Novak and customers are funding crisis energy assistance by having their bills rounded up each month. Novak and employees are supporting local charities through Novak Helps. That's the power of working together. That's Novak.
Fred, This was so nice of us to share Maryland Lottery scratch-offs with our neighbors. Happy holidays, Selena.
What's this? Scratch-offs. Cool, thanks.
Your tuba is a nice touch, Fred. Well, 5 more neighbors to visit. What's wrong? Your lips are frozen to the tuba?
This year, multiply the cheer. Give Holiday Multiplier scratch-offs from the Maryland Lottery. Top prize $100,000. Please play safely and responsibly.
And now, time for a Happy Honda Days clearance highlight. The season had grown cold, and the roads were covered in ice. Looking to capitalize on clearance pricing, Amy went down to her local Honda dealer and test drove the entire all-wheel drive SUV lineup. CR-V, HR-V, Passport, and more. In the end, Amy got a clearance deal on a new Pilot equipped with 3 different driving modes. Boom, baby, boom.
Don't miss clearance pricing at the Happy Honda Days sales event, now at your local Honda dealer.